Hello, welcome to Naxos Classical Spotlight. I'm Raymond Bisha. In today's podcast, I talk with conductor John Jeter about the choral music of American composer Florence Price, who is featured on his new album, with him conducting the very excellent Malmö Opera Chorus and Orchestra. Here's a bit more of that opening music that comes from her piece, Abraham Lincoln Walks at Midnight. Does this album have all of Florence Price's choral music, or is there more?
There's more. There's kind of an interesting history there. The original intention was the complete choral music of Florence Price, but there are a number of different versions of pieces. And also, just over the years, some of her choral works were kind of discovered and published by some very small publishing companies, maybe that focused on specifically choral music or church music. So there still needs to be this sort of overall collection of what's out there. G. Schirmer is handling the catalog of her music. So we're still in the process of finding pieces. And again, there's this edition situation where you'll have two things that are almost the same, or a work that's maybe for a 4-part chorus and then the same's available in 3-part chorus. But the two main works are, of course, Abraham Lincoln Walks at Midnight and Song of Hope on the recording.
So were these pieces published during her lifetime, or?
As far as I know, no. We know A Song of Hope, I think that was written around 1930. Abraham Lincoln, we don't know. There's no information. We don't know why, or here's this huge oratorio that exists actually in multiple versions. Even here you go. There's the version that we recorded for full orchestra, chorus, and soloists. Then there's a version for soloist, chorus, and piano, which one would think, oh, that's just the orchestra part reduced, but it's actually different. There's a lot of different sections in it.
Wow.
And then there's another version with, I think, different orchestration, but it's only part of the piece. So maybe she was doing it for, another project.
She seems to have had an abiding interest in literature.
That is correct.
So how does that influence her choral music?
Well, you see it, for example, in a lot of the smaller works that are on this recording. There's 3 works by Mary Rolfson Gamble. Mary was a poet. There's a collection of her poems called Hearts of Gold from 1920, 23, something like that. And if you look in just the collection of poems, there's The Moon Bridge, The Witch of the Meadow, and Summer Clouds, I think. So she obviously, here's someone who's enjoying poetry, has this volume, and she's taking these works out of there. And she's picking, boy, it's hard to determine the sort of literature that she gravitates towards. There seems to be a little bit of everything. So things that are very serious, also lighthearted works. There are also, she was interested in some of the Harlem Renaissance poets. And some of those texts have some really interesting, you got to dive into undertones addressing the inequalities, the racial inequalities that were going on at the time. But it's interesting. So there's one of the pieces, Night, that's on the recording. When you just listen to it just externally, it's a very beautiful piece. It's very, it's very, I don't want to say it's light, but it's a real easy on the ears piece. But looking at the text, there's all these interesting undertones of talking about that inequality. And that's definitely things that have come out in the text. So I guess to answer your question from many moments ago, yeah, there's a lot of, I noticed in her music with the text and the actual music, there seems to be a lot of different levels.
So tell me about Abraham Lincoln Walks at Midnight.
So Abraham Lincoln Walks at Midnight, written, we don't know when. The poem was published in 1914. Vachel Lindsay is the author. For people listening who may not know Vachel Lindsay, very, very interesting person to check out. For us today, he would be considered a performing artist. He toured the country as this sort of troubadour poet. And this would be the early 1900s. He would literally recite poetry for bread. I'll give you one of my poems for food. So he would perform his poetry. A lot of it was performed very rhythmically. Some of it was almost sung. So just as an aside, and he was the first person to write a book about film motion picture criticism. It's really interesting. And it's interesting, his early writings he was so enthusiastic about what he thought the power of film could do for us culturally. He didn't use the word documentary, but he said, we can make films about other artists and about other cultures. Very, very interesting. And also he was born in Springfield, Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And so is Abraham Lincoln. So there is a strong connection there. In fact, in the text, this event that takes place where Abraham Lincoln is so disturbed psychically, spiritually about what's going on in the world that he essentially, rises from the grave and is walking the streets of Springfield. That even they don't mention Springfield, but it says in our little town, we know it's Springfield. And this work is basically Lincoln's lament at the sign of the times. And this would be right at the beginning of World War I.
So the other longer piece on this album is Song of Hope. And I think that uses her own words, right?
That is correct. Yeah, yeah. So it's this work of sort of celebration, maybe so was it supplication a little bit to sort of old school. I don't want to say Old Testament, but it had that feel to it. But yeah, fantastic piece. It has gotten some live performances, not many.
Hmm.
Again, it's another great option as a concert piece, a way to work in if you have a chorus, a way to work in maybe a shorter choral piece on the program.
Hmm.
A great type dramatic work.
So you've also got a number of shorter choral works. The one that really caught me was actually the final one, Resignation, which again is her poetry. And it's really lovely.
She does a great job at in the court, well, all the music, but in these works, she does a great job at setting up an atmosphere. Absolutely. And some of the works, Resignation's great. I like Praise the Lord is just so, it's it's so in your face. It's Praise the Lord. There's no question about, the focus of this. And then there are all these other works that, as soon as the chorus starts, or maybe even before, most of these have piano accompaniment. Well, the text is always playing a big part. Depends on the work. She does a great job at handling the text rhythmically and musically, so it's a very clear and audible. And there's just this great interplay of, again, those musical ideas with the text. And again, a lot of these pieces, I would say, they're very atmospheric.
So tell me a bit about the musicians on this album. It's so great to see a group of mostly Swedish musicians
Yes.
doing Florence Price, which is, I guess, a kind of affirmation she never had in her life.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. This recording is with the Malmo Opera Chorus in Malmo, Sweden, and the Malmo Opera Orchestra. So the Malmo Opera Chorus is a professional chorus. So this is what they do. They're a terrific chorus. Yes, it's mainly Swedish. There was at least one American tenor or baritone in the group, and he was very helpful in the initial rehearsals, saying, "Okay, folks, there's English and then there's American English." And I had talked to them early on. I said, make sure, we don't, in all due respect, we don't want to sound like a British choir. We can't do that, right?
Right.
So that was a lot of fun because even in the sessions, these words would sneak in, like, no, 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 it's got to be more about, it's not it's we had a lot of fun with it, and we wanted to try to get that kind of a sound. Generally speaking, an opera chorus is a group of solo singers, really, and
Hmm.
because if you think about when they're performing opera, they're not standing there in a group. They're acting as a group, but sort of a moving group. There's often short solos. The soloists, vocal soloists on the recording are members of the chorus.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that gives you an idea.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah. And I have to say, I think this worked out so well because an opera chorus, I mean, this opera chorus, they can sing any style, but an opera chorus's blend is just different than a chorus that sings mainly oratorios.
Right.
Their blend is that they're all soloists. So it's generally this kind of a darker, kind of older school choral sound that was just perfect for this. And if you think about, she was writing for congregations and amateur church choirs a lot of times. So, and obviously you want the best singers, you want it to sound professional, but there's also an element that you want to keep in the music making that has that, that comes from her tradition.
That was music from Florence Price's choral piece, Resignation, beautifully sung by the Malmo Opera Chorus, conducted by John Jeter. It's from a Naxos album of Price's choral music, Naxos catalog number 8.559951. And if you're in a choir that would like to sing some of this music, just visit the Wise Music Classical website. It's all there. That's all for this podcast. Thanks for joining me. I am Raymond Bisha. So long for now.